Welcome to the Strong Talk podcast. Kalle Beck, joined by multi-guest, recurring guest, Chris Vachio. We've talked a couple times in the past about the disabled strongman, the Big Phil Classic and everything. We're fresh off our breaks from the holidays. Figure we do a little catch-up end of the year, see what's going on with Chris and everything in disabled strongman. So thanks for coming on, Chris. So what is all going on with disabled strongman competitions coming up?
Oh, got a couple of good ones coming up here. The Arnold disabled strongman is going to be back for a second year in a row. Torbjørn Skalvold, he's from Norway. He's actually the promoter, and with him and Arnar and Magnus for Magnuson. And so that's back again at the Arnold. So that's pretty cool. Everybody's pretty excited about that one. They've got an interesting set of events. They're going to have Stones of Steel this year, so which is a first for any disabled athletes. And dumbbell medley, hand over hand pull, and I'm not sure what this. There's one that it's something Magnus came up with called the loading game.
Magnus's loading game.
Yeah, Magnus's loading game, and there have been very scant details for that one. So I'm curious as to what the loading game entails. Knowing Magnus, it's going to be something pretty evil. But
yeah, I can guarantee one thing: if it's something that no one quite understands yet, and Magnus from Magnuson came up with it, it's going to be horrible to do.
Oh yeah,
but probably fun to watch.
No, yeah, that's what I think. So, and they're having then a farmer's hold or walk, depending on if the athlete's standing or seated.
Sure.
So that'll be a cool event, I think.
Yeah, and it was big going to the Arnold. It was the first year, the inaugural year. Last year, or this year now, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Depends. Probably going to be putting this out after that, so. Oh, it all gets so confusing on how to keep track of dates. But anyways, it seemed to be well received. Definitely all the athletes seemed appreciative of, being able to be at, the biggest, the Arnold's pretty much the Olympics of strength athletics. So
it really is, yeah.
To be included there, everyone seemed happy. I saw a lot of, media and coverage of it. And it really gave a spotlight on, what these people are capable of doing.
Oh yeah. James Spurgeon's stone loading. He's a one arm guy from, he's only got one functional arm. His right arm, he injured it in a motorcycle accident. And so it just, it's completely paralyzed. So his stone loading, yeah, it was a cool video that I saw going all over the place. In fact, somebody, ironically, somebody that at the bank recognized me from seeing James's video.
Just you in the background?
Yeah. Yeah, they recognized the arm tattoos and the beard. And, the lady looks at me, she's like, "Oh my God, I saw you on a video on the internet." And
it could be anything.
Yeah. And she started rambling about it. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay. That was from the Arnold. That was from James's, that was James, friend of mine, stone loading video." And she's like, "Yeah, that's it. He was doing that one-handed. It was crazy."
Yeah. And to paint a picture, I think this is the one where he pretty much like kneels on the ground and kind of rolls it up his body, then stands up. It's pretty remarkable, and just you're able to adapt and overcome different. I wouldn't even call it like a limitation. It's just a different way to do the event because you have a different set of tools. Yeah,
it was James has been huge for helping me kind of change my perspective on the sport. Yeah, because I honestly had no idea what the hell I was doing with it to begin with. I just wanted to get it done. I wanted to get a disabled strongman contest out there when I did the first one. So it's been a learning experience for me. Massive learning experience all the way across the board. And he came up to me he trains at the same gym I do.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up to me, introduced himself, and, said that, he wants to compete, but he's like, everything you have is geared towards 2-armed people. I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. And that would kind of screw you, wouldn't it? So he and I talked. I'm like, okay, well, what can you do? And so that led to 2 years ago of me including a dumbbell. I had set up for a log press and a series of log presses. And he went over and he picked up my monster bell and, kind of, started shouldering it. And I'm like, okay, well, there we go. Which is ridiculous. I mean, my dumbbell is 135 pounds empty with a 2.5 inch diameter handle in the middle. And he just kind of picked it up one-handed and set it on his leg and then legged it up to his shoulder. Just like, shit, I can't do that. I can't pick the damn thing up one-handed. And so that was kind of funny. But I did a ton of research to make sure that the difference, but I started looking at a ton of people's max log and compared it to their max dumbbell press, and then came up with about the right ratio, which is 61%. If anybody cares, if you, as long as you exclude the outliers like Dimitar,
Dimitar and like all the world record holders in the dumbbell,
pretty much. Although Zzzz comes out to about 61%.
Yeah, but so, he's also not a world record holder in the dumbbell, though. He's more proficient in the other one. The ones that are like, I'd imagine the people that are so technical on the dumbbell, it's going to skew a higher percent. Like you said, Dimitar, some of
Dimitar, probably Poundstone, probably would have thrown it off. I didn't find any video on him.
Kilkowski. He had like 300 and his log's about 400. So
but it was cool. So I did that, and then I've tried to keep in mind ever since. Okay, we may have standing athletes who have only one functional arm, so let's see what we can do to make sure we've got as level of a playing field as we can.
Yeah.
So, this year for my contest on May 5th, that one I've got a max monster bell for that. So for both the seated and standing. So that should be a pretty cool one. Of course, I'll have my giant red beast of a bell in there. And if everybody gets up to, correction. Forgot about that. I'm actually, I talked to Paul Mauser, and we're going to use his big stumpy dumbbell. So it's actually, it's basically a log.
Yeah.
With the inside cut out. So that's gonna. I'm actually really looking forward to that thing. I've gotten to play with the Stumpy Bell a couple of times at Paul's contest over the years.
Yeah,
and
I think you're kind of underselling it because I've seen this thing. It's huge. It's probably what.
Yeah. I
think they come in various sizes, but some of them look like they're like 14-inch in diameter.
Yeah.
It's
literally a curved out stump.
Yeah.
With ends on it for plates. Yeah. So it's honestly, it's a badass implement. I love the thing.
Yeah. It looks really cool. And it's like a whole different type of wood. Like you only find that up in the hills of West Virginia, wherever the hell Paul keeps all that. Cause I don't have trees like that in California. We got, lots of trees and oak trees, but they don't look like that. It makes it look like it's more of like just some different old timey event, which I think is very important for promoting strongman. Because I remember he had one that was there that was like 180 or like 200 pounds, and we did a seminar, Robert Oberst and myself at Viking Performance. And they're like, "Do you want to do that, Obi?" And Obi's like, "No, I'm just like during lunch. Like, do you want to just pick up this that's like looks unwieldy?" He's like, "I got a contest in like 3 weeks. I'm not messing around with that thing." He probably could, but it's just like I'm gonna try to be smart for once in my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it lends itself to one of the 3 pillars of strongman, which of course the social media pics. It makes for a cool pic. So
definitely.
if you're holding that thing over your head, that's going to look pretty awesome.
Yeah, you got half a tree over your head.
Yeah.
From some unrecognizable corner, cold. It has like a special look to the tree just because it's so damn cold up there or something.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got that really, like, holy shit, it's cold bark on them.
Exactly. It looks like it's been trying to like wear a coat, like
Yeah.
develop one. So just we have the Arnold Disabled coming up in March, of course, at the Arnold Classic. Introduction of the Bartos Stone of Steel. That should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever evil concoction Magnus is brewing up.
Yeah.
So, and then you just mentioned in passing your event. So, what exactly are you doing in you said May, right?
Yep, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. We're actually planning on having a taco truck outside.
Perfect.
Because, why wouldn't you have a taco truck outside on Cinco de Mayo? But, yeah, I'm doing, for the standing classes, I've got all kinds of evil stuff planned for them. So Max Monster Bell, of course, we talked about with the Mauser Stumpy. We've got I'm doing a yoke ladder with them, which basically they just get to pick from one of 3 yokes and go 50 feet with it as fast as they can, which should be funny. I even mentioned Robert Oberst in there. In my rules, I'm like, if you do the Robert Oberst 20-foot slide, I'm going to dock 20 seconds off your time.
Like North Carolina.
Yeah. He slid that thing about half the distance.
Hey, man, rock and roll, right?
Hey, that was, to my mind, that may be the most epic slide in the history of yoking that I've seen.
Well, what we do, we talked about it, and he took, I think, what I said a little too literally. There was a 3-part yoke medley, and I told him, and so you have to, we know the transitions are going to be the key, going from one, getting under the other. Yeah. So I told him kind of push it past you, like, as you get to the line, shove it a little bit to push it past you so it's not in your way, so you can just go straight to the side and get under the other yoke. And he ends up flinging it at like 20 volunteers, and the thing slides through the stands and everything. I'm like, I think I should have told him just to like gently shove it or something. Not
slide it a couple of feet. Not.
Yeah, he put that. You got to realize when it's polished concrete and that you got the American record holder in the log press, that when I tell him to shove it, it's a little different force than I'm telling one of my a lightweight woman client or something.
Yeah, slight degree of difference.
Yeah,
Obi would make a very unhandsome woman.
Yeah, I think so. He talks about how pretty he is, but I think there's a limit on that.
Yeah, there's several lines being crossed there.
So
should be crossed.
Yeah, we're gonna cross them all.
Yeah.
So you said a yoke ladder. So
yeah. So
how's that going to work with the different divisions?
So this is of course standing folks only. They're going to do the yoke, but they pick from 3, and like the men, they've got a 500, a 600, and a 700, and they basically take whichever yoke you choose to 50 feet as fast as you can. Weight trumps, and so like if somebody tries the 700-pound yoke and they get it 26 feet, they've got to get it halfway for it to count. But if they get the 700-pound yoke, 26 feet, and one of the other guys takes the 600-pound yoke the full 50 feet in 9 seconds, whoever moved the 700-pound yoke wins.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, but they still got to go halfway, so they can't just make it go an inch. And
yeah, because that was when I thought that up at the beginning. Yeah, because as with the disabled athletes, they're just like the folks with the disabilities are just like the rest of everybody. Somebody was complaining about it being too light on the yoke, so I'm like, let me go ahead and adjust. Give more choices, a little variety. So I went ahead and did that. And, but I thought about it and I'm like, I don't want somebody just moving the thing 2 feet and and out crediting. So you got to go at least halfway in my mind. That way you've actually put some real distance into the yoke.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that would suck to have somebody, oh, hey, he moved it. I ran with 600 and he moved 702 inches, but he won.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to find a good balance there.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move having the different weights there because you want to make it as inclusive as possible, but still testing people that are at a higher level. In any contest, but especially one where, there's more and more, but how many, disabled, strongman contests are there a year? So,
right.
They don't have much to choose from.
Right. They don't. And that's, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that change. I think it will. I mean, it's growing like, it's a good example. Our numbers were such last year that, prior to that, all the years prior, including last year, I ran everything side by side with an open contest with the Big Phil. And, but our numbers were such last year on the disability side that it's like, they need, they've got their own show now. It's strictly them. And so I had to do some jockeying to find a different venue because, shelling out $2,000 for a venue when I'm not going to have as much revenue coming in is going to be, was going to be an issue.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was, did some looking around, found another venue. And so now we're ready to rock and roll with them in their own area. And then I'll do, I'll do the Phil. Phil's probably going in the summertime now.
That's good. And is it still going to be like, or no, that's the other one you do where it's the unspeakable strength or whatever.
Yeah. My idiotically heavy show, that's still going to happen too. And probably the end of, usually I like to do that one at the end of July.
Yeah. The heaviest amateur show in the world.
In the world. Yes. Because I usually like to make that one a spinoff of the Pro Arnold, but since the format changed to the Pro Arnold this year, I'm gonna have to see what I can do tinkering wise. With the since they no longer have the dumbbell, and stuff. Since they put in the that bag throw, which is cool, but.
It doesn't lend itself to the heaviest amateur contest, though.
No, it's like, hey guys, here, throw a 200-pound bag. We'll try that. Yeah, throw that over. But so that one doesn't lend itself to being ridiculously heavy.
No,
so I'll have to come up with something else.
Yeah, that and the natural style stones is a little different.
Yeah. Though I've got some natural stones around. In fact, as a matter of fact, I'm doing natural stone load in the disabilities contest. Nice. So I've got, I'm going to have them do a natural stone series, and probably anywhere from probably between 200 pounds up to probably 300 odd pounds for them, and just whatever I can find to get them a good solid series. Maybe even go double down evil. And John Stitt, one of the athletes, was telling me I need to get something really ridiculous in there. So I'll see if I can find like a 400-pound stone, somewhere around.
Yeah, that final like Fortissimus style stone, like pound stone. Something that's like it's just kind of there to take up space until someone actually does it. Yeah,
that's what I'm aiming for there. So
there's some guys out there that probably could, like, that one big tall guy from like Sacramento area we talked about.
Chad Macklin.
He looks.
Yeah, he's an animal. He dominated at Worlds too. He just cleaned everybody's clock.
Yeah, he looks like he could pick up like a 400-ish pound natural stone.
Yeah, he's like Thor Bjornsson with a missing leg. I mean, that's pretty much the way I like to describe him.
Pretty accurate. He's a mountain of a man.
Yeah, because he's about 6'8", 6'9", and he's I'm looking forward to seeing him with some of these events too. he's not looking forward to the monster bell, just just because of well, with him being 6'8", 6'9", he's like, yeah, man, it's got to travel a really long way. Which he's pressing it to the height of a 2-story house. Well, everybody else is just getting it up to a bay window.
Yeah, but that's how it goes. There's some times where you have an advantage, and other times where it's a disadvantage.
Yeah,
just based on how you're built.
Yeah, there's a couple other. I know. Shoot. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I know Scott Weaver's a good stone loader, and Nick Ettinger. They're both good stone loaders too in the standing division. So they might be able to give some ridiculous 400-pound stone a whirl as well.
Yeah, plus it's always fun, and that's why I like that. It seems like the series is coming back just a little bit more in strongman, because I feel like watching it, or a crowd watching it, you get to that point, and we just saw it at the official strongman games a couple weeks ago, where maybe 1-2 people per class got that 6 stone. Yeah. And it's exciting every time, because you see these really strong people going, and then they can't get it. Meanwhile, if you have a stone over a bar for reps, someone got 13, someone got 12. It's right. It's basically the same thing, other than on the score sheet. I'm talking from that. So yeah, the more series, and it's good that there's that one at the end. Like, I know, I heard a lot of people criticizing Lynn for having 6 and how heavy it was. But I think in just about every class, more than not, at least someone got all 6.
Yeah.
And most didn't. Like literally, there's 10 people per class, maybe 1 or 2 got all 6, and then it was you're getting third by getting a strong run going for 5, but being able to get that last one, separating yourself, it made some really cool moments that I think people are going to remember for years down the line.
Yeah. I mean, the Atlas Stone series is any kind of a loading series like that is always, there's a lot of excitement to it, especially when you have something ridiculous at the end, where they've got to fight with it. And like you said, not everybody gets it. So the crowd's into it when they finally see somebody do it. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal, as it should be.
Yeah. Plus it, having that one that's like, you could call it like an overreaching or a challenge stone at the end, really changes the strategy for the athletes as well. Because you'll see some people going, where if it's just, the top people are all it's gonna be separated. One guy's gonna do it in 19 seconds. Someone else might do it in 21, and it's trying to shave that little bit off the transitions when, it's debatable if anyone's going to do it at all. You see that one person just taking their time, going each one and getting ready, so they have a good 15 seconds at the end just to load that last one. Yeah. And then they might not, and it might have cost them 4 or 5 points, but just that extra strategy, that having some sort of challenge stone at the end gives you, I think, makes for some exciting spectating and competing, because you got to go kind of figure it out in your head how you're going to approach it.
Yeah, that I mean, it makes it completely different. I like was it John Albrecht did one? He had a 10 stone series a couple of years ago to contest. It was his Mega Balls contest, and it was cool if you made it. I think you had to do the first 5 if you had 60 seconds to complete the first 5, and then if you got those done within a 60-second time span, then you got another 30 seconds to try and finish the rest of them. Yeah. So I thought that was a cool tweak. That would be that might be a cool thing to do for when you have a challenge. Like, okay, if you finish the first 5, then we'll give you another 30 seconds to try the beast stone at the end.
Sure. Yeah, I like it when people think outside the box like that and come up with ways to make it a little different and more exciting. Because it's very easy for as promoters, it's easier just to get bogged down in okay, I'm gonna have a press, I'm gonna have a deadlift, I'm gonna have a moving event, I'm gonna have a load, and then you're just kind of cycling in between, 3-4 variations of each,
Right.
and a non-standard event where you go from having stuff like deadlifting cheese and rolling up sausage links
Yeah.
in front
Yeah.
of you to just it's like strongman powerlifting in a way where we're just doing the same basic
Yeah.
movements over and over.
Right. It's nice to see changes. That's I'm actually doing a sandbag throw too. Speaking of that, and it was uh, Steve Slater and I were talking about it and kind of brainstorming, and thought it would be kind of cool to add a slight variation to that. And so my sandbag throw, this will be for the standing class. Seated class, I'm having them throw sandbags for distance. But
Mm-hmm.
in the doing they're having them thrown over the bar, so it'll be like a 14-foot bar, and throw it over the bar. But they also get bonus points if they make it further back.
Okay.
So if they just get it over the bar for just like within 10 feet of the bar, then they get their point for getting it over plus whatever their split time is. But if they can get it between 10 and 20 feet, they get another point. And then anything over 20 feet behind it, they get an extra point over that.
Yeah.
So
you get the extra points for throwing into the crowd.
basically, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's, I think we got to thinking about that after watching watching last year's stone or keg over the bar, or keg throwing, and watching. I can't remember if it was last year's or the year before, but and you see Thor, he's launching them into the next zip code back
Mm-hmm.
behind him, and some of the other guys are just, they're getting them over, but they're just going right over and dropping immediately behind it. And it's like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting to, to add that. I think it'll make for a different strategy. So, for somebody who's really good at throwing, then okay, maybe they're going to try and launch the hell out of it to pick up extra bonus points. And but people, some other people are just going to, I just need to get these damn things over the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's
change the dynamic a little.
It's rewarding someone for having more power output versus just being efficient and being able to do it. Like I get where I get what you're saying, where you see like someone like Halfthor or even Shaw, where I think it was one of them a couple of World's Strongest Man's back, where they had like 3 kegs in the air at the same time, and they're clearing it by a good 10 feet. But they're only they might lose to someone else, even though those two don't lose,
right?
Only to each other in that event.
Right.
But in theory, they could lose to someone else who just does it a little quicker. But it wasn't as impressive of a spectacle to see, but it was just efficient. So
right,
you're rewarding the show, the spectacle of just tossing them needlessly high.
Yeah, it's like, so you get them further past, and hey, so I think it'll be kind of neat, something different. And that's, of course, that's, like we were talking about, that's part of the challenge as a promoter, is coming up with different ways to challenge people without killing them completely.
Yeah, and still making it, fun and easy to understand, and not making it so weird like some of the rules you see where people say like you can only wear one elbow sleeve and all this stuff that's like.
Yes, I saw that. That was kind of bizarre.
It's not a new rule, but it's some of those things I'm like, I don't really see, stuff like that, how it's helps anything though. Like,
I think they're closet Michael Jackson fans. They're going, it's a strongman version of the one glove. And that one, it's like, if you're going to do it and have it make sense, I guess would be kind of cool. But yeah, the one elbow sleeve doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Yeah, but it's like I know I've said this many times on starting strongman. I absolutely hate the Fatback Farmers thing, and largely just because it's It's overly complicated, in my opinion. There's just too many moving parts. I mean, I think it's a great training thing. Yeah, that's especially if you've got limited space. It's a great farmer's training method to build up your grip and all that. I don't like it as an event.
Yeah,
And,
I think just to make sure everyone's clear, it's basically, to sum up the Fatback Farmers, it's doing a couple deadlifts with a farmer's walk, then walking, then finishing the walk instead of just picking it up once. Or it could be set up where they're doing a couple deadlifts, walking a set amount, doing a couple more deadlifts, then finishing, then doing a couple more deadlifts. It could be anything like that. And I do agree that it's a good training tool. And I think I saw someone like Martins, he said he works on just lots of short starts. Go like 10 feet, pick again, go another 10 feet, and he's just working on that start, which makes a lot of sense. But you try something new, but watching it seemed very, how do you say it? Like it was so up to which judge in which lane on who gave up or down calls.
Yeah, that's the other thing I didn't like about it. The consistency of judging is difficult.
Yeah, and and that's the right way. I'm not blaming any judges. It's just difficult to have a consistency when the margins are so low. Like the room for error is so low in something like that. It doesn't spread the field out very, very far. But yeah, it's a great training tool. I think I liked the similar thing they did was like the keg. Was it last year's Arnold or the year before in the amateur, where they did like the keg clean press, carry it, which I think was a lot cooler. And that looked like that would be hell to train for.
Oh yeah, and there were a lot of people that somehow managed to kill their feet on that one. Ended up dropping the keg on their feet. Christina Bangma, I think that year, smashed her foot pretty good. She stayed in and kept competing because she's nuts. But
that's true.
But I mean, she's an awesome athlete. But I think she smashed her foot that year with that the keg press thing. But seemed like that was, well, they were trying to go fast. They're trying to get the keg presses in real quick, and maybe lost track of where their foot was underneath the keg, and or bobbled it and smashed it on there or whatever. So
plus you're just tired at the end of that. You've pressed a keg 5 or so times and carried it, and it wasn't light at all either. And carried it 50 feet, 60 feet.
Yeah, that was a demanding event. As Paul Mauser likes to say, you'd have to break out the safety police for that one. But all the smash toes. But that's by the time you're there to the end, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
So
definitely. But yeah, I think it's fun to test out new things, and and especially things that haven't been done in the past, because you see all these events coming back and people are like, oh, this is new. But a lot of the time, they're just stuff that haven't been done in a while. Like I had a client, a client asked me this week, like, what do you consider an odd lift? Like, is log lifting an odd lift? I'm like, yeah, it's different. And I think what he means by that is, something that's like an unconventional, type of lift and training other than, what's the norm. And I said, yeah, but it's more common. But there's at one point where like a circus dumbbell would be like, who the hell does that? Why would anyone do that? Then they bring it back, but it was before, like, stuff like that happened before the barbell. Like, like most of the stuff, especially at the Arnold that they've brought up, is just they're just taking old time stuff from the turn of the 19th century, and just kind of reintroducing it. Then it's a standard event. 5 years later, it's a standard event. But
it's funny how that happens, how everything goes in patterns.
It's all the cycle.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting to see if anybody brings back that the old school barrel lift. Remember that, where they kind of grab the lift of the big barrels, the whiskey barrel lift, kind of grab the lip of it and take it up to your knee and try and shoulder it and get up. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting to see.
Well, that'd be cool on the main stage. We just need Rogue to make one. Just make a giant barrel.
Just gonna get a few whiskey barrels. I know Davey McCann's got a whole shitload of them down in Kentucky.
Nice.
I'm sure.
But Yeah, stuff like that, or even I think like Fortissimus, they brought back like the backlift,
Oh yeah.
but that didn't seem to catch on just because.
Well, of course that one. I mean, that apparatus had to be one of the ridiculously priced things.
Exactly.
Yeah, that had to cost an arm and a leg. It's it's one of those things. If I ever win the lottery, I'm I'm gonna do some really cool shit. I'll have stuff like that. I've even thought of like making a castle and having a portcullis lift. So
Like Pure Strength back in the day, where
yeah, yeah,
it all took place in a castle, and
yeah.
you had
Just
to.
maybe try to not have anybody almost die like Odie Wilson when Kaz Myers uh, planted Magnus over the edge and he dropped his barrel on Odie.
Yeah, what's that, like Pure Strength 89 or 90, something like that. You got to
Yeah.
go on YouTube
Oh,
just for the intro song.
yeah.
Don't even need to
That's
watch the
right.
rest of the contest. But
You gotta watch the whole Odie thing though. That was great.
yeah,
That was we every now and then when I'll go out and train with Steve Schmidt and them, uh, we'll go back and watch the that particular show just to rewatch the title song and the Odie Wilson near death experience. But
there's definitely a lot going on in that contest compared to others. Like
yeah,
they're in a castle. Kaz Myers it looks like he just doesn't really care anymore at that point, and just he's doing
yeah,
stuff just to try to win like that. Like, obviously he's competing, but this
yeah,
was after he was banned from Worlds, and
right,
he's like, he's not going to play by the rules at all. He's knocking one of the Icelandic guys barrel over the side. He's
oh yeah,
cheating all this stuff. It was at the same one where they're both holding swords crisscross and they have a
yes,
wine like.
yes, that one.
There's
Yeah. They, I mean, the promoters definitely, whoever came up with the idea for the events and all that, they definitely had a few extra shots of whiskey and maybe a couple extra hits off a bong before coming up with some of those events, but they were still kind of cool.
Yeah, I think in the '80s there's certain other recreational
Uh,
activities that were a little
that's
bit more
yeah,
prominent.
yeah, probably a little acid, a little LSD to come up with a few of those,
Something.
like the what's the where they had to chop the log in half,
Yep.
and then he's the was I think the Swedish team. The guy almost died jumping on the log and it collapsed unexpectedly under him. He was trying to get it to collapse, but yeah,
Yeah. When I watch the old time events like that with such non-standard, I was talking about earlier that you can make it
yeah,
almost look like powerlifting. That's the exact opposite spectrum of it. I look at that and I just imagine like the same kind of people that would be bitching in like the starting strongman group
oh,
about all that compared
oh
to
yeah,
like if that was announced or they saw like what the events were going to be for like a major contest, like where you have to chop a log, you got to hold out a wine flute, a wine glass with two
yeah.
swords intercrossed, and it, the
How what diameter of axe handle are we going to be using?
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I just think how different it would be, everyone, and not even just the people competing, but
yeah,
the the fans that are they're still going on about the double dipping of half door
yeah,
because it replayed
yeah.
over Christmas again.
Yeah, I think the people who would show up to that sort of contest are the same people that like would show up at a hanging. Um, really, but hey, as long as they pay admission, I'm cool.
Yeah.
That was there's actually a guy in Ohio here that he does really old timey stuff. A guy
Uh-huh.
named Ori Barnett down in Xenia, Ohio, and he does real old timey stuff in all his contests. It's like cool and frightening all at the same time. I always joke with people that if you're going to do one of Ori's shows, make sure you get your tetanus shots beforehand, because the odds are the equipment's like really odd and rusty and strange, but he comes up with some really cool stuff too.
Yeah, that
So
makes it fun. What's an example of one of the events you've seen at one of those? one of
Oh,
its discoveries?
he actually did a wrist roller with a car.
Okay.
So he had this rusty wrist rolling thing and a twine to the tied to the front of this. I think it was a station wagon, and you had to wrist roll the station wagon for like 40 feet or something like that. And it was really interesting to watch. I mean, it actually went. It ended up being a lot cooler of an event than what it like looked like on paper. You're sitting there on paper and going wrist roller with a car,
Just some
but
guy twisting his wrist back and forth for 40
yeah, but
seconds.
but yeah, so but I mean, it was like to get the thing started, they're having to do a lot of body English and kind of really crank down on the thing to get the car moving, and then watching people just crank their hands as fast as they can go to keep the thing going. It was kind of slick. It really was, but it was he does what else did he had one of those uh one of the wire one of those big wooden wire things, the wire um the things they wrap the wire around for the big like
Like
the
a spool?
yeah, one of the big wire spools.
Yeah.
So he's got one of the big wire spools, and then they had to arm over arm pull the wire spool up a set of stairs.
All right.
So
So it's
and
hitting and shit?
yeah, it's
Huh.
hitting the stairs as it goes, and had a pretty he had some way of adding weight to it. So he could add extra weights for the different classes and stuff like that. And yeah, that was another one that was kind of bizarre, but also kind of cool the way it played out. I'm frankly amazed that the thing survived. It was a pretty tough spool because it was up a concrete flight of steps.
Yeah.
So this was like at a park somewhere, and they had a concrete flight of steps, and you're like, okay, well we're gonna arm over arm pull this thing up the steps, and people are pulling the hell out of it, banging it into the steps, and as it goes, but it stayed intact. It worked. So
It's definitely creative.
oh yeah, yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, which everyone, unfortunately, pretty much everyone who ends up interested in the sport and does it for a bit probably encounters something where something hurts or something needs surgery. And you
Oh yeah,
recently went through a shoulder surgery,
yep,
and you wrote, if someone wants to read the article you put up, it's on startingstrongman.com, kind of recounting your experience, but you just want to give some insight on what you had done and how it's healed up and progressing,
oh yeah,
now.
yeah. So I tore my supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscles in my shoulder. Which is two out of the four muscles of the rotator cuff. And then my biceps tendon, where it attaches at the shoulder, was in such bad shape. The doctor told me, "Hey, look, do you want us to go ahead and fix this while we're in there, or do you want to come back in another year after you tear it?" I'm like, okay, well, that's a pretty easy choice. Go ahead and fix it while we're in there.
Yeah.
So I had those three things done, and these were full tears. So it wasn't like had a partial tear in either of those two muscles. I ripped them both completely, and so they did the full repair surgery on me. Um, yeah, I think the biggest tip really is finding, understand that the doctors have to give you um, the most conservative approach to your rehab, because they don't want to get sued. I don't blame them,
And they get
but
sued a lot.
they do. They get sued a lot. They can't tell you, hey, if you push things a little bit harder and get a little bit more aggressive, you're going to come back faster. They really can't tell you that
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to get sued.
Right.
And if somebody goes and pushes things further and then winds up hurting themselves again, well, then they get sued. And so they can't tell you that. So you really have to educate yourself a lot on what can be, what kind of rehab protocols are out there, and then think outside the box as far as what else can you do to challenge your body to regain the strength and regain the mobility without doing any extra damage. And I highly recommend anybody that's in, honestly, honestly, anybody at all, period, um, become scientifically literate and become medically literate. You don't have to, know all the ins and outs of every medical thing, or, be a hardcore scientist, but at least be able to read through a study and understand, and make heads or tails out of it.
Yeah, get the bullet points out of it.
Yeah, get the bullet points out of it, and at least be able to read a drug, a thing about a drug, and understand what the drug actually does.
Yeah,
and that drives me with like bro science with the steroids, bugs the shit out of me with that.
It's bad. Another example with that, which I think is the most prevalent thing, is, just one quick example, is how often I have to tell, I'll get an email, from someone who I'm sending programming for, and they'll be like, oh, I just got sick, but they put me on antibiotics. I feel great. And I'm going to go lift. I'm like, dude, those cause tendon tears. Yeah. And this is just the doctors, the doctors, don't tell people for whatever reason.
Yes.
And there's some that don't, but like it weakens your tendon. It like dries it out or something,
Yeah.
There's a little bit of bro science right there.
Oh yeah.
But it does something where it makes it so you're in a weakened state where you probably shouldn't, lift an Atlas stone or something that already medically has a higher tendency for tears in your tendons and stuff. So I just tell them, I'm like, dude, like if you are on antibiotics, like go for a walk at the most, or rest, like let your body heal. Like, so yeah, that's just one example of like, you should know what you're taking and how it's going to affect everything. Cause nothing happens in a vacuum either. Like you put in one substance, it leads to this. And we want to go, we could go into, use steroids as an example. If you load up on so much gear that your blood pressure shoots up through the roof and you can't make it up a flight of stairs, like you might get a little bit stronger in like this next 4 weeks, but like 6 months later, you're not going to be healthy. And you're like, if you're not healthy overall, then your performance is going to suffer, because your body starts going into like, like a shutdown mode. It's like we're in a weakened state with something. So
if you go into full cardiac arrest because your blood pressure is like 9,000 over 300, that's, if your heart explodes while you're trying to carry the keg, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just, you might be able to do like, some, good, lifts in the gym, a couple, but you're going to get to a point where your body starts fighting against you with it. So
yeah. And that's, I think that's an important, one, at the very least, if you're literate in that regard, you're going to be able to detect bullshit a lot easier.
Yes.
So when somebody's trying to do some kind of goofy bro science thing, let's see, one that I heard that was fantastic was that you need to rotate the different esters to avoid receptor burnout. And I'm like, well, the esters don't make a difference. It's the same damn drug.
Yeah, it's just changing the half-life a little bit.
Yeah, it changes the half-life. It doesn't change the drug.
Yeah, and so if you can't answer a question like what is a half-life and what is an ester, then you shouldn't even consider such an option.
Exactly.
Of using performance-enhancing drugs or anything.
Right.
Or,
I mean, that's and it goes with. That also goes along with, like you were saying, if the doctor prescribes an antibiotic, okay, well, you need to be able to look and say, hey, wait a minute, this one has a pretty high risk of, perhaps a more pronounced risk than most of them do of causing me potential issues with my tendons. So I should probably alter my training or see if there's something else they could give me.
Yeah, an alternative that.
Some alternative
might
that's
work.
not going to cause me to blow up an Achilles tendon.
Yeah, I just think it's just it goes down to taking personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Obviously, like a doctor, a surgeon, etc. They're a professional, and you should have faith in professionals to do to do a good job, but they're a person like anyone else. Like we've all went to
Yeah.
restaurants and there's different chefs, right?
Yeah.
Some are a
Yeah.
lot better than others.
Yeah, exactly.
And even,
And
they might present themselves like they're still the best, or, so you just have to, if you kind of have some idea of how everything works together, you can just you can better know if someone's screwing you over or not,
yeah.
or they have your best interest in mind.
Well, and I mean, in today's, in the medical environment today, they can't spend, hours and hours looking at your specific case.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to do what they can within a very short period of time. They're going to spend, 10, 15 minutes with you. So, they can't, even with your PTs and whatnot, they can't, they're not going to be able to dig into the nitty gritty, where you have that ability to go in to look into your specific case and then bounce ideas off of them of, hey, you know what? I saw this exercise or this training method or something like that. And I think it might be able to help me. What do you think?
Sure.
So you can bounce that off and you can do stuff that they don't have the time to do. They're not going to, after you leave your hour appointment with your PT, they're not going to go spend another 2 hours researching things specific to your case. They've got 3, 4 other people they've got to deal with that, they're working on that day.
Yeah.
So they simply don't have the time and the resources to spend on it. So, that's where, taking responsibility of your own recovery comes in. You've got to be the one that's driving that. They're not going to, they don't have the time.
No.
They're going to do what they can within their small framework, but they're a resource for you in your recovery. They're not the end all and the be all of it. Really, that's up to you.
Sure. Yeah. There's a little blog I started to write, because of course, it goes along, and I just the whole thing. The whole point was that it's on you, right? So,
yeah.
And with everything in life, because you know how I feel like, I think I went on a rant a couple podcasts ago about this, but, like I remember, like I was like, I just realized, I was looking at like, my eBay profile. I registered before I was 18 on it, because back then you just had to click a box.
All
so,
right.
According to eBay, I'm like 40. So, but like
you old bastard.
Yeah, I had an eBay account in '99. I was like 13 years old. But back then I was fascinated that I could go on the internet and use a search engine and look up any information I could possibly find.
Yeah.
I could search for it, and now, like, I get messages.
Even though the porn back then was really boxy.
Yeah, and you just watch it go frame by frame by frame, down. But it was still available. It was amazing. I didn't go on somewhere and be like, "Hey, does anyone have a link for porn?" You look it up.
Yeah. Right.
But like, I get people message me like, "Hey, you wrote an article on how to log press. Can you send me the link?" I'm like, "Do you know what I'm gonna do to send you that link?"
Yeah.
I'm going to go on Google. I'm going to put in Kalle Beck log press, and I'm going to find it. Then I'm going to send it to you. The same thing you could do, but like, but people still do that. But like, at some point, or like right now, everyone's asking about like how to watch World's Strongest Man or this. I'm like, just look it up. It's out there. You can figure it out, or figure out how.
Google is not broken.
No. But on the same token, for every 10 people that annoy me, there was 1,000 people that visited the page that said, that says how to watch World's Strongest Man. So,
it's fun. I have actually, I work in IT for a living, and I actually have gotten that at work from coworkers where they come up to me and help. Yeah, within IT. So I mean, of all the people in the world who should automatically know, hey, maybe I'll go check Google first. Yeah, guy comes up to me and work, "Oh, hey, how do I do this?" And I flat out looked at him, just like, "What, is Google broken?" And and he laughs. I'm like, "I'm not kidding. Go Google it.
Yeah.
If you can't figure it out after you Google it, come back and talk to me, and then then I'll Google it for you, and and find out your answer."
But that's what's amazed me is I feel like that's just like a rudimentary like thing people should know how to do, but being better at Google is actually a skill these days.
It is.
Like,
Well, I mean, there is so much crap out there that
it's true.
like, well, just here recently, I started doing the McGill Big Three for my warm up. Which, if you're anybody listening, if you're not familiar with Dr. Stuart McGill's work, he's probably the expert on back injuries and prevention thereof. So I highly recommend anybody go out and look up his stuff.
Yeah,
He's got several great books.
Yeah, they got a bunch of those books on Amazon, which if you go to amazon.com/shop/starting strongman,
yes,
you get a little bit of credit.
That's true.
And you can get some good information.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking. They mentioned it in one of the books that I was reading, but I wanted to see a video on it, and and it's really funny. If you Google McGill Big Three, thankfully nothing really weird comes up, but there's a wide variation of how people interpreted his teachings on the Big Three.
Sure.
I watched a few videos and I'm looking at them going, the hell are you people? That's not even among the Big Three.
Did you even read the book?
Yeah. It's like, why did you put McGill in there? That's not his stuff.
There's definitely a lot of crap out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, so being good at finding what you need and sifting through the crap, in Google is definitely, like you said, it's definitely a skill, another skill worth cultivating.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to, okay, if I had no familiarity with McGill's stuff at all, and then went and Googled that, I could have picked out a couple of those videos and started doing it completely wrong. But,
and cost yourself, time and, possibly injury.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's, that's, the other side of, educate do what you can to educate yourself ahead of time so that you don't get suckered into the bullshit, because there's mass quantities of it out there.
Yeah. I just feel like, you should take some ownership of your body, because you have to have it, for your whole life. So you should kind of have, some investment in, like you said, have a rudimentary understanding of what's going on. It's kind of like, I might, I like to work on cars and do this or that, but I think I don't expect everyone to want to do it to, the level I do. And there's a lot of stuff that I can't do either, but I know enough about, how all the systems function to, if I needed to get something done, I'm not going to, get
you're not going to fall
over. Yeah.
Extra things they try and add on.
There's certain things, like I have, an old work truck with like 150,000 miles on it, and they're like, it really needs a rear end flush. I'm like, if the rear end goes out, I can replace that easily enough, and I can pull one out of the junkyard for $100. But I don't want to do the same with a transmission, so let's go ahead and service that.
Yeah, I know. Like, from a medical standpoint, I'm appalled at the number of people I know who have been like, particularly diabetes.
Oh,
I know several people that have been diagnosed with different kinds of diabetes who have no concept of what it is. It's like they know they've got it. Oh, well, the doctor says I need to take these pills. Like, okay, but do you know why? Do you know, do you know under what circumstances you need to take those pills? Do you understand what it is about? Well, my blood sugar's yeah, but okay, you need to know more than that. It's your body. You realize all the shit that can go wrong with your body if you don't manage this disease properly, and they're just completely oblivious to it. It's scary.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate after being around family the past week.
Yeah. Aunt Edna's got sugar. Yeah. So she needs to make sure she only has a little bit of gravy on the mashed potatoes.
Yeah, they'll go on about what I kept hearing all weekend is how red meat's bad for you, and I'm like,
gosh.
that's your 8th drink, like.
Yeah. oh, red wine's fine, just not the red meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it's healthy in France.
I'm like, sure, yeah, sure. If you're already, overweight and have high cholesterol and everything, maybe that's it. But if you train regularly and all your health markers are fine and everything, I don't think a little red meat's gonna.
I remember one guy.
I'll have another serving of prime rib. I'll be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, one guy, back on the diabetes front, this guy has. This was a ways back, but he's got a mongoloid piece of pumpkin pie. But oh no, I don't want any no whipped cream because I got diabetes.
Sure.
Like, okay, you've got an entire fucking plate of pumpkin pie, but sure, it's the whipped cream that's going to push your diabetes over the edge. Yeah. But damn, yeah. So, but yeah, all the other all that goofy stuff with the I love the red meat thing. Yeah, the red meat. And,
salt and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the salt. I'm actually going to a seminar at the end of January with got Stuart McGill and Ed Cohn and Stan Efferding. So nice. I don't know if you really looking forward to that. I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff that Stan's done on salt, but yeah, he's a big proponent of taking in more salt, particularly if an athlete. And, which is interesting when, there again, being scientifically literate, when you actually look at the research on when you look at the research on salt, there's actually very little to support the notion of, oh, salt's bad for you and it's going to kill you. But, it's become, I don't know, it's become part of American medical dogma that, everybody repeats it so often. Oh, you've got to cut down the salt or it's going to kill you. And
I think stuff like this, it comes from, like, they apply stuff, you hear stuff when people are already unhealthy.
Yeah.
And they're already in a state where their body's not absorbing nutrients in the way it should.
Oh, yeah.
It changes the conversation.
Right.
But then you say, but it's not, they didn't become unhealthy because they had too much salt necessarily.
Right.
It was just a whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
But
it's like the old, and I still hear it from people and it drives me up the wall. People are like, oh, well, you eat too much protein and it's going to cause kidney damage. It's like, no, it's not. For people who already have damaged kidneys, yes, too much protein is bad. Mm-hmm. However, never in the entirety of medical history has too much protein ever actually caused the kidneys to malfunction.
Sure.
But people still repeat it as if it's gospel. Oh, you can't, Well, it's the other, so many other odds and ends of just, it's like people pulling random numbers out of their ass. Because random shit would be a bad, because people could pull random shit out of their ass if they so choose. But, random numbers. Oh, you can only digest 30 grams of protein at a time, Yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. Carry on.
No, everyone wants an easy answer.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at yourself, and I've had times where, I was making poor choices and it affected my health, and you blindly follow something because, it's not fun to admit that you're wrong or that you're doing something that was harmful to yourself at some point. But, instead of going, like me literally not using my body or giving any second thought to what I consumed every day for the past 2 decades is why my body cannot process, sugar, carbs, salt, eggs, protein, whatever it is. And you have to work on trying to, build a healthy balance. They go, well, I'll just not eat salt. I'm like, well, maybe it's not exactly how it works. And the same thing kind of applies when, we're talking about, steroids or something is, it's not necessarily that, testosterone or whatever is inherently bad. There's a lot of good applications for it.
Right.
And it is the thing that people forget is that it is a medication.
Right.
It helps thousands of people live a better life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But
like,
it's all in how it's used.
sure.
Yeah, one glass of wine a day is healthy. A gallon of wine a day, not as such.
Or even if it's not healthy, it's
Yeah,
negligible, like, the
right. Yeah.
difference. And it's the same thing. You just have to, you have to, but there's also, um, uh, it's, and there's always a risk versus reward for certain, actions, like, might injure your shoulder by pressing heavy stuff all the time.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But, you can
Yeah,
also injure your shoulder getting out of bed because you didn't press heavy shit all the time. Like,
yeah, yeah.
like
It's
I think you put a post up on Facebook about it, but especially I think a lot of people can relate, having probably spent around the holidays, spent a little bit of time around family, and doing a sport like strongman is the whole, oh, when you're this age, you're back.
oh yeah,
Meanwhile, you're around people that are older than you, and I don't see a single one anywhere that's not complaining about their back.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. They're walking out. Oh, my back's killing me. Oh, my knee. It's like,
whether
and how much heavy weightlifting did you do when
yeah,
you were younger?
wh-
None.
whether they were sedentary, whether they played football, whether they lifted weights, it seems like once you get old,
Yeah. Well,
everyone is complaining about their back.
well, Father Time is undefeated,
Hmm.
and he manages to catch up with everybody eventually.
Yeah, so it's not to say that you should do cat back deadlifts, every 2 days
Yeah.
and put your, but
Yeah, there are definitely things that can accelerate the decline.
hmm
Both from a lifting standpoint and from a non, from extra sedentary activities.
yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. But I know for myself, I've put, my back in compromising situations, and I had someone comment, they're like, "Well, don't you have back problems?" I'm like, I only have back problems now when I'm trying to do heavy deadlifts. Like, if I'm trying to pull like over 500 pounds, sometimes my back hurts the next day. But if I'm just going
yeah,
through life because I've done all of those sets of 500-pound deadlifts, it doesn't hurt at any time. The only time it hurts is when I'm not doing something. If I sit too long, if
oh,
I'm in a car too long. But if I stay pretty active throughout the day, and I make sure not to, I stand when I work, or even like right now, instead of sitting for an hour while I talk to you, I'm standing up. Like, everything feels fine, and I am, and if I need to pick something that's relatively heavy in daily life, I'm completely capable of doing it
yeah,
without hurting myself.
right,
If I have to move a dresser, or carrying some dog food or something, it's just because I've you built the muscularity to be able to do so.
oh yeah,
And now I try to do stuff to hopefully make it so you can uh, prolong that time where you're not completely incapacitated from back pain, like everyone ends up being eventually,
right,
by doing stuff like this, reading stuff like Stuart McGill Big Three, doing stretches, more corrective work. I know I saw you put up a post just how you implemented that, and you just really focused on like breathing and bracing correctly when
yeah.
you lift, and like slowing it down, and just how much harder it made what would
Holy
be.
crap! Yeah,
um
I was just doing. I was bracing. I was bracing with weights that I guess I normally wouldn't have braced with.
yeah, you just kind of, you don't
Because
give
they
them
were
the
so
respect, right?
yeah, and right. I probably braced with them, but not. I wasn't actively, concentrating on bracing as hard as I could.
Hmm.
It's just kind of doing casual bracing, if you will. But yeah, actually focusing on fully bracing, no matter what the weight is. Oh man, does that suck? Um, as far as here I am doing, I'm doing incline log presses with probably that was only around 200 pounds. It wasn't very heavy.
Hmm.
And man, by the time I got to my 10th rep on each set, because I'm bracing hard doing that the whole time, I was worn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so same thing. I was doing some bent rows and doing some log rows, same thing, bracing really hard for each rep, and it was wearing me out to do that all the way around. And even especially, I did some with the bamboo bar. I was doing some of those overhead presses for high reps, and yeah, yeah, bracing on those. And I'm just like finishing all my sets, going, damn, I'm worn out. Just you know, 2 weeks ago when I did this, it didn't wear me out. Now it's wearing me out because I'm bracing like LA Trip.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and especially at first, I think is like because you're actually like focusing on using the muscles. It's in a way it's like how all the bodybuilders used to talk about the mind muscle
yeah,
contraction, and you try to make like
yeah,
light weights feel heavy.
hmm,
But if you do that, you end up getting so much stronger. Like that's actually like
yeah,
how Robert Oberst approaches his pressing. Like if you ever watch him bench, it's very slow
hmm,
because he calls it feeling the movement instead of
yeah,
just kind of throwing it up in the air. Like I'll see in my my Facebook memories, I saw like a log press from like 2011 I did, and I was like, geez, I'm just throwing that thing up in the air and hoping for the best. Like, and my body looks like, it says it because, I haven't developed, the same, muscularity that I even, have today back then. But yeah, you'll be so much better. Like, it's not necessarily that you need to, load everything so heavy. And, with a lot of the clients I get, I kind of take a couple steps backwards with make them, we do deadlifts. They'll be like, why are we doing 60% for like 8 sets of 3? And I'm like, because I want you to actually understand this movement before we just keep loading it and you get into a position where it's such
yeah,
a heavy weight that you're compromised. You need to be able to, control that weight at a high percentage of your max. And, then eventually they get stronger.
yeah,
Especially on accessories. Like there's almost 0 point to, like why you're going to do the whole stack on the lat pull down just to kind of have the weight move you
yeah,
around versus, I might do it with like 100 pounds, but every rep is tough and it's actually working. It's working my lats where I want it, so they get bigger and stronger to stabilize for the log press, and it's all for a point. It's not just
yeah,
flinging weight around. And there's some benefits to that as well, but especially as you get older, I feel I can definitely tell that this style of training is the only way that I'm able to then train again next week.
yeah. Yeah, you've got to put a premium. That's one thing. You've got to put a premium on recovery. I wish that I had realized that when I was younger. I'm sure I would be a lot stronger now than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I paid more attention to recovery when I was when I was younger and dumber and thought that I was immortal.
But
So
I know you say that, I say that, but people said that to us, and we still didn't
oh,
listen.
oh, I know, I know. That's just
So the people that hear this
that's
still won't listen too.
no, they won't. No, I that's I it's I've run across a couple of younger guys that I've talked to that actually started taking that to heart,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I think there are a few more guys that are out that are putting out good information as far as their training programs go.
Sure.
I know Mike Westerling talks about it a lot, and Brian Carroll talks about it a lot. Of hey, you know what? You have to recover from your training sessions, so maybe try not to kill yourself completely.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're going to kill yourself, do it on the platform. Um,
Yeah, where it counts. It's
yeah,
like if you want to take that risk of, going for that deadlift that's, might put your back in a good position, you might as well do it when it's actually going to put points on the board versus,
yeah,
making a video for Instagram or YouTube. Unless
right,
that's your goal.
right. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be Instagram famous, great. That's your, give Castleberry a run for his money, something like that. Get
So,
some foam plates, have at it.
someone has to.
That's true. There aren't a whole lot of oh, I I can't remember the guy's name, but I'll have to send you some links. There's a guy that's becoming Instagram famous for really absolutely horrible technique with heavier, not even really that heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll have to send you some of his videos because they're epic and painful.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I've seen any of them on the Starting Strongman or not, but
I,
it's
I think it's a wonderful thing that we live in a world that people can get recognized for doing even fake things.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah. This guy, yeah, he's getting. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's not. You can. It's funny what you can be famous for. So,
And and also that like the whole fame and famous thing is such a race to the bottom. right now.
Yeah, that's
Like being famous used to mean, you're in movies or you're this,
right.
and you're probably having, setting yourself up so you have a life that even, your descendants can all benefit from. And now it's like, it's a race to be famous to get 10% off a pair of knee sleeves. Like,
Yeah,
like
that's
it's a race to the bottom.
oh, look, I'm big time. They give me 15.
That's awesome.
All I had to do was show off my ass.
But yeah, I think we could keep going on about this, but I think it's been a good talk and it's fun. You got, just to wrap it up. Anyone still listening? You got disabled strongman at the Arnold. You have your contest and
May 5th in Hilliard, Ohio.
Yeah, where can people get more information on some of those? Is the entry forms and everything up, or is there event page on Facebook?
Yeah, they are. I've got an event on Facebook for mine. There's actually, if you go to disabledstrongman.com, there's actually kind of a catch-all website now that has links to all the contests. Yeah. Torbjorn set that up. So I think him and he was working with him and Arnold and Magnus. So we're trying to get a catch-all for all the disabled strongman contests out there.
Perfect. So yeah, I think I saw that it was like the same on like Instagram. So it's like at Disabled Strongman.
Yes.
Disabled Strongman on Facebook, disabledstrongman.com, and Chris Vachio on Facebook. It's just at Vachio on Instagram.
Yep.
You're like Madonna.
Well, I was really shocked to find out that was available, to be honest.
That's a good one. I couldn't even get Kalle Beck, but you somehow got Vachio.
Yeah. Well, plus, I was kind of late to Instagram, so I thought, I do have some other relatives out there that are on Instagram, and so I was thinking, hell, man, there's no way. And then as soon as I'm like, well, hell, okay, I'll take it then. if none of my other relatives, the handful of us in the United States, if you ever see anybody with my last name, they're a relative. So
for better or worse,
for better or for worse, whether I claim them or not, they are
awesome.
And but yeah, so I was really shocked that I got that. So, yeah, at Vachio on Instagram.
There we go. Well, it's been great talking to you. Thanks everyone for listening. It's the Strong Talk Podcast. I'm Kalle Beck, and we'll talk to you again next week.